What I just wanted to do is just give you a little introduction to myself, a little bit of an introduction to this program that you're here to learn about, and hopefully it's a worthwhile experience by the end of the day. My name is Doug Durliet. I know I've met many of you, if not all of you. I'm director of the West Central Ohio Manufacturing Consortium. It's based here in Lima at Rhodes State College. It was created about 11 years ago. There were three primary parties here on the campus that were responsible for creating this program. Dr. Matt Kinkley, and unfortunately he's about ready to retire in about 2 weeks. But he was one of the movers that drove the creation of this program. Guy can really think outside the box, and I think the whole Pathway program, not just the basic, but the other components of our Pathway program are a reflection of how he thinks. Also David Brown, he was the Dean of the Engineering School here at Rhodes State at the time. He's now a training coordinator for the Husky Lima Refinery. He's had that position out for about 4 years. And then Jill Gear, who was the grant coordinator for Rhodes State College. But long story short, they obtained a couple of Knowledge Works grants. The first one was to conduct a regional manufacturing survey. You know, if you go back to the early 2000s, we were just coming off a lot of downsizing in our manufacturing base at that time. A lot of companies were moving to Mexico, they were moving to Asia and other parts of the world. And manufacturing is such a huge part of this local economy. And there were a lot of questions and even some doubts as to whether we're going to have a manufacturing base here in West Central Ohio in the long term. It made up about 35% of the labor force in West Central Ohio. When I say West Central Ohio, I'm talking about Allen County and the contiguous counties, which make up 9 to 10 counties. Sometimes we include Shelby County. They're not bordering Allen County, but we do a lot of business in Shelby County. And with relationships with the Honda plants, we'll skip over and we'll do some business in Logan County and even in Union County as well. But generally a 10-county area of West Central Ohio. And what the survey had found, there were 43 companies in this survey, and what the survey had found was that, yes, manufacturing is here to stay, it's just taking on different form. It's not as manual, not a lot of hands-on as much. What it is instead is it's going to be a lot more interaction with technology. Instead of using your muscles, you're using your brain. You'll have to understand automation. You're going to have to understand a lot of what they call soft skills, things like teamwork, thinking outside the box, to come up with ideas to help your part of the operation or to help the organization as a whole. Just a whole different type of skill sets. And then what they had done from the survey, they crunched the data and they came up with a 3-tiered pathway program. And what you're about to learn about is the basic pathway. And it's morphed quite a bit from its inception in 2004. We've done regional surveys twice since 2004. We did another one in 2007. And there were more changes, largely in the form of needing more skills, especially at the entry level. Entry-level jobs are going to be requiring a little more thinking skills. There's less manual labor, more automation, and so forth. We did another one in 2013, and the timing has been pretty good. In 2007, if you remember, it was just before we went into the recession, and then we came out of the recession, and then in 2013 we did another survey of the region. And what was surprising, we expected to see a lot of the companies that downsized during the recession to remain below what they were at pre-2007 levels, but the majority of the companies were at or above 2007. In fact, if you threw out a couple of companies, we had Honda of America, and that's the elephant in the room. They had over 10,000 employees that they counted toward their survey. They included their Marysville and East Liberty plants, their Anna and their Russell's Point plants, so it came up to about 10,000. They were still a little down from what they were pre-2007, but knowing the Honda philosophy, they probably implemented a lot of lean, and when you're that big, it just takes a lot longer for them to get back up to what they were before the 2007 recession. The other company, which was significantly below 2007, was General Dynamics, and that's just a different animal. They really don't move with economic cycles. They're at the whims of government policy. And if you've got a policy which says we're going to downsize producing weapons, they're going to be feeling the effects in a lot of cases. So you threw out those companies, there was actually a significant net gain in employment among the common companies that participated in 07 and 13, which gave us a lot of encouragement. The other thing was that even though they've already exceeded what they were in 2007, the companies were also saying they had significant plans to hire in the next 24 months from the time the survey was completed. And then, the other thing too is that they really seem to take a different philosophy too in work-based learning. When we surveyed companies in 07, about a fourth of them were saying they were interested in co-ops or internships. Well, that more than doubled in 2013, and we are seeing the effects of that. A lot of companies, either with 1 or 2, 3 employees, going through apprenticeships, internships, co-ops through Rhodes State College, or we've had entire classes. We've taken on the Ford engine plant. They resurrected their apprenticeship program. We've taken on Grow. They had gone with Owens, and they looked over here to Rhodes State, and they've been here now for, I believe we're going on the 4th year with them. Just a lot of things which are reflecting what the findings of the survey are. Bottom line about this whole program is that it is industry-driven. That's a buzzword in Columbus right now. They want certifications that are recognized by industry. We've been doing this for over a decade. We not just survey manufacturers regionally. We are comprised of a group of consortium members. Right now we're at 28 members. We meet on a regular basis. Those that do participate, we have a steering committee which meets 4 times a year, and they deal with the month-to-month activities of the consortium. If we're involved with various outreach activities, bringing in speakers that are talking about opportunities to defray costs of training, a lot of different informational things like that. We meet 4 times a year. Any company that's in good standing with their membership dues is eligible to vote in these steering committee meetings. And then we have a full board of directors. We limit that to 10 manufacturers, and they meet semi-annually in January and July, and they deal more with the macro issues. They approve the annual budget. If we do something structurally different, for example, we added a level of certification in the past year. The board had the authority to vote on that. If we want to adjust our membership rate structure, they have the authority to do that as well. So we're an active organization. We try to feed off of each other. We want to listen to what they say. We want to then present based on their feedback and see if it's acceptable. If it's not, we go back to the drawing board and we'll re-present it out to the general public. An example of that, we thought there was an interest in operations excellence, an area where you're dealing a lot with logistics and distribution and things along that line. There seemed to be a buzz about that, but once we surveyed the companies and we presented the survey findings to our executive committee, they said, really, we can do a lot of this internally. There might be an interest in this in concept, but for you to go out and put together training programs on this, we don't think you're going to get a lot of interest. So we do try to listen and respond to what industry is saying, and I'd like to think that we do it a little quicker than if you do in the traditional academia. Nothing against academia, but anybody who's been on both sides of the puzzle, they know that academia will move at one speed and industry wants to move a lot faster, and we'd like to think that we move a little bit faster than most academia. So what we're going to do on this program, I'm going to be just basically giving you an outline of the modules that are in this basic pathway program. We're not going to slog through it as though you're teaching it, but I'd like to just give you a condensed version to give you an essence of what this program covers. And this isn't really etched in stone. There's a lot of flexibility in this. If there's some things that you have at your disposal at your facility that you think would be a good fit to help drive home the point of what this module is teaching, you're welcome to do that. We've done that with other associations. You actually have some flexibility within the 40 hours that this program requires. We estimated that if you were doing bare bones teaching in all these modules and the testing and so forth, you'd probably knock out about 32 of the 40 hours, which gives you some flexibility for some other things. And the binder books that you have here has got plenty of material, a lot more material than 40 hours worth. So you've got some flexibility to resort to that. If you think you need a little more work on getting your students ready for a job interview or a little more time to put a good resume together, there's material in there and you can spend a little more time for that. If you want to bring in a representative from a manufacturer who talks about what his skill requirements are at his company and the opportunities that his company presents, you've got the flexibility to do that as well. But this is generally a pretty good outline of how you could follow it. And if you meet the main competencies of these modules in this program, you should have students that succeed when we examine them, both in the midterm and the final. The exams, we had just discussed that with Matt Kinkley before that. We will continue for the sake of maintaining consistency. We'll proctor the test with Rhodes State College. We'll come out to your campus and we'll proctor the test. Again, for the sake of consistency and maintaining that, the information on the test doesn't get leaked out and people end up getting, the material and they study for the test rather than actually learning the material. Throwing a lot at you right now. Anybody have any questions on what I've said so far? If not, before we actually get started in the program, I introduced myself. Why don't we just go around the room and introduce each other briefly? Some of you know each other. Some of you, it might be the first time you've met. Just around the room and brief introduction of who you are, who you represent, and go from there. Why don't we start with you? You're right in front of me.
David Snap, Indian Lake. I'm an industrial tech teacher. Ryan Stanford, industrial tech at Indian Lake High School.
Greg Tall, Indian Lake High School.
Mike Coder, Director of Credit Recovery Program, Upset Valley.
Aubrey Clark here at Rhodes State College. I work in the area with Doug, and I manage the technical grants, the geek behind finding out the research and everything. And I can tell all of you that are from schools or recovery credit programs or anything, certification is what's coming. We're in the process of several certifications right now with Doug, and Doug will share that more later today. We went out to Whirlpool, and that's what they're wanting. That's the apprentice spoke about it, other people spoke about it, so that's what we continue to look at. So if you guys have any questions of us, let us know. We'll be glad to help you out.
Dave Shellhouse, Midwest Regional Education Services.
Sean McElroy, Midwest Regional. Larry Huber, I'm also Midwest Regional, but I'm coordinating grant with USD.
Sybil Truster, and I'm with the Midwest Regional at ESC, and I'm a grant director. And also, just to let you know, we are working on a second grant, a second straight A grant, which would take and include more school districts, and we're calling it On Board with this. So I may want to talk to you. Okay.
Michael Ward, I am the grant coordinator, along with my father, who's filling in for me until I finish my requirements at Sydney High School at the end of the year. I apologize, I couldn't be at the meeting the other day. I've taken a couple personal days to do a couple other meetings, and this was my last personal day today, and I want to make sure I was here with you guys today. So I apologize for not being there the other day, but thank you guys all for coming.
I'm Lori Dyer. I'm a school board member from USD and kind of gung-ho about getting this into the hands of kids.
Aaron Thompson, Ohio High Point, but I'm a satellite teacher at Upper Sutter Valley, and I'm an ag instructor.
Rebecca Egbert, assistant principal at Fairlawn.
Chris Clark, high school science teacher at Fairlawn. DJ Hines, high school math teacher at Fairlawn.
Larry Davis, opportunities.
Greg Ward, the other half of the grant coordinator.
All right, welcome. Expectations from students taking this class. We offer this to post-secondary adult population. That's been 99% of the students who have gone through this program, and they've got a different set of objectives when they come through this class. A lot of them say, well, will this get me ready to work at the Husky refinery? Will this get me ready to work over at the General Dynamics tank plant? No, what this is, we're dealing with, in Lima, we were dealing primarily with a population, 80% of which enters this class unemployed. They come out based on the surveying we do annually. About 60% of them come out either in progress taking additional training, whether it be here at Rhodes State, Apollo Career Center, or another place, or they are employed. And we tell them to be realistic about it. I mean, when you're 28, 35 years old, you want to make a living wage and so forth, but we got to tell you, based on your education, based on the skill background you've got, you got to start somewhere, get your foot in the door, and then take what the company offers you in terms of experience and then build from there. A very consistent finding in our surveys is that companies like to promote from within. The latest survey, from basic to intermediate skills, 60% of the companies promote from within, and from intermediate to advanced, it's about 70%. You understand the culture, you understand the machinery, you just have a better understanding of the whole atmosphere of working within that company, and they find it's easier and better to promote from within, provided they are qualified and willing to take on those additional jobs with the skill sets. So we tell them to start from here and set a long-term plan to get yourself up to where you're making the kind of wage in the kind of job that you want. You can't just jump from having a GED and being proficient being a CNC machinist or a maintenance person. You got to take baby steps and work your way up. What's exciting me about this program that being offered here with your consortium is that we're addressing this right at the high school level, where students have a little more flexibility to take the baby steps up and get to where they're getting into a meaningful career that pays the living wage and enables them to live a good life with the income that comes from it. So this looks like a very exciting thing. Hopefully it works out and we can do some great things in this region. We're going to start with Module 1. Also on your agenda, you might see in parentheses some time frames. Did everybody get agendas? I see one right here.
Were they in the, they got stopped on the,
Okay.
I got it. Right here.
Okay. Everybody has an agenda? Yeah, it's 2-page agendas, front and back. You don't mind, could I look off of that? Okay, thanks. Module 1 just basically gives them a general overview of manufacturing. What is manufacturing? And just a snapshot of who the members of the consortium are. Those are the logos of the current members, 28 members. Pleased to say that just out of our relationship, out of the talks from this whole thing, we added one. You see it in the lower right-hand corner, WEWA. We were in contact with them, and they liked a lot of what we were saying, and we got into more explanation and what we're all about, and so they were members. But we represent a total of 28 companies in 7 counties. They represent about $9 billion in annual sales and employ about a total of 4,000 people. We like to use that kind of clout whenever we're talking to policymakers and whenever we're applying for grants and other things, and that does give a lot of doors open. The fact that you are a united voice representing this much of the industry. Here's a rather cynical look of manufacturing. It might be a little extreme, but I think it's point taken. Somebody once said the factory of the future will only have 2 employees, a man and a dog. The dog will watch the man to keep him from touching the machines. Again, a little extreme, but it does take a point of just how much automation has taken the manufacturing sector. There's a study which came out from the Brookings Institution that covered the Great Lakes states and the United States from 1997 to 2004. And what it showed was 2 things. Number one, manufacturing workforce declined significantly in each of the 7 Great Lakes states plus the United States, but the manufacturing contribution to the state's gross product, the output of goods and services, and the gross national product increased. Even though you had double-digit declines in the number of workers in each of the states and the United States, you still had an increase in the contribution of output of goods and services at each individual state and in the United States. And it's largely because of technology enabling one person to do the work of many. Were any of your schools at the Honda Transmission Plant's Manufacturing Week back in October? Get to tour the plant, did you? One thing that really resonated with me, I couldn't tell you what they were actually doing in that section of the plant, but it was a long, narrow section of the plant, and probably about 80 to 100 yards long, and just machine after machine after machine during that whole length. And one person ran that whole set. And that just really drove home to me just how much technology enables people, one person or a few people to do the work of many a few years ago. So point taken here, maybe a little extreme, but I think it does drive home the point. If you were to be asked what is manufacturing, what kind of an answer would you have? What would be your answer? I think everybody's one of those things, they know what manufacturing is if they see it, but what would be a general, well-rounded, accepted definition of manufacturing? Yes?
Taking a raw material and turning it into a functional product.
Yeah, you just about nailed it right exactly the way we have it. Yeah, in general, that's what it is. You're taking raw or processed materials and turning it into products that people can use. That's the general concept of what manufacturing is. And then what we like to do is just explain to people why manufacturing is a good career choice. You use your mind, you use your hands. There's opportunities for career advancement. By the way, in your packets, there are scripts to this, and you can follow this along and what each picture would signify. They're actually in the sleeves of your binder book. Modules 1 and 2 are on the left, and then the other modules would be on the right. You could follow along, but actually you can use your mind, your hands, opportunities for career advancement. You have things like college reimbursement, or they'll just pay for your college education altogether. Manufacturers are especially aggressive in doing that sort of thing. Aubrey was just touching about Whirlpool. Whirlpool doing a little thinking outside the box with us. They wanted to address a couple of things. Number one, fill in their skill gap. And second of all, people like to have extended weekends, so they take a lot of Mondays and Fridays off. So they set up a system with this Work, Earn, and Learn program where they took candidates who applied for this program. The ones that they select, they'll be in a situation where they will work full-time during the summer for about $19 an hour, which is a pretty good wage for summer work for a high school student just starting college. And then when college starts, to fill Whirlpool's needs for their lower workforce on Mondays and Fridays, they will work at Whirlpool full-time hours, and then they go to classes at Rhodes State on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And they have opportunity for scholarships, plus making a pretty strong wage. And at the end of the experience, they'll have an associate's degree. They'll have a little skin in the game. That $19 an hour wage won't necessarily just be money they can pocket and spend on whatever they want. If they do invest their money wisely and put at least some of that toward paying off their education, they come out of it with an associate degree and debt-free. And that has to please a lot of parents of college students as well. And hopefully this thing takes off. I know the whole Whirlpool umbrella is looking at this thing with anticipation. It started in Ottawa, but the Findlay, Marion, Greenville plants are looking at it as well, and I think their headquarters in southwestern Michigan are looking at this as well. As if it takes off, this could be a corporate-wide program. When we talk about sub-industries in manufacturing, anybody have an idea what we're talking about? I mean, manufacturing, it's that taking raw or finished products and making them into products that people can use, but it takes a lot of different forms. Anybody know what we're talking about when I say sub-industries? Gave you a little bit of a hint on that first logo. But, depending on what